Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, your existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am robcasting at you. You, imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity. This is, once again, Robservations, episode number 665, the show about something. And let me tell you, I'm always saying that despite our bitching and moaning and my intense hatred of Star Trek since 2009, we are still surrounded by wonders. If you are a imagination connoisseur par excellence, like I know you are, otherwise why would you be here? There's got to be 10 things you could rattle off the top of your head right now that you love. Whether it's a video game, whether it's a series, whether it's a toy, whether it's a book, whatever. There's stuff that you love right now, that you love intensely, that you think to yourself, it is fucking awesome that I have this kind of thing. How cool is it that I live in a day and age where I can have video games that are this sophisticated, or sprawling literary sagas like The Wheel of Time, that somebody all the way from Sweden can be so in love with, I get to hear about it every single day. That would be Stubble McShave. Some of you out there have 100 different things you love, and I'm always saying we live in amazing times. Whether you have your favorite comic book that was later turned into a comic book movie, let me just say, despite all, look, is there still injustice in the world? Yes. This is not a political show, usually. What I like to talk about, what I like to celebrate is shit that I fucking love. And that you love too, because you're an imagination connoisseur. And there's a lot of stuff out there to love. But by God, sometimes things that you've wanted for days, weeks, months, years, decades. Sometimes you just hear the news. Guess what? Somebody out there has figured out a way to make this thing that it might be, you think to yourself, this is just for me. I've wanted this for so long. And then somebody finally figured that shit out. Today is one of those days. Oh, such a good day. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, yeah, that's cool, But if you have a long time relationship, like say, 42 years with something, and then somebody says, hey, this thing that you've liked for 42 years in one medium, we're going to put it into your favorite medium. And, that's the kind of news that you just go, my God, it's about fucking time. And it's going to finally happen. And not only is it going to happen, but it's going to happen with a team of people that you're like, hell yes. Hell, it's not like Alex Kurtzman doing another TV series about Star Trek. It's not like that. This is actually, nope. We've got a creative team on this one that I can stand behind. I literally can get excited from announcement day all the way on to whenever I get to finally see this. Now, you all know what I'm talking about because you read the news. Your imagination connoisseurs. What are we talking about? We are talking about Mobile Suit Gundam. Many of you out there might not know what Mobile Suit Gundam is, and that is okay. There's no reason for you to know. A lot of people do know because it's a worldwide phenomenon, but a lot of people don't. And they'll be like, bruh, what's so big? What's the big deal? Why do you love what? Mobile suit? What? What's a mobile suit? What's Gundam? What does any of this mean? Why are you excited about it? Well, let me tell you, today the news dropped. Yes, Netflix is going to make a Mobile Suit Gundam movie. Let me just say, there was somebody I know in the entertainment business that was very powerful, and I tried to convince them, I don't know, 10 years ago, to make a Mobile Suit Gundam movie. I wrote a whole big report explaining why they should. I'm like, here's my argument why you should go after this property. And I had a pretty good argument, but that person didn't happen to have a connection to Mobile Suit Gundam, understood it, had a connection to it in a roundabout way, but couldn't convince them. Well, let me just tell you, Mobile Suit Gundam is one of the great franchise properties in Japan that has been an animated property, and they're finally going to make a live-action movie of Mobile Suit Gundam. Now, before you diehards go, but Rob, technically there has already been a live-action Mobile Suit Gundam movie that was made for Canadian television in 1999. I am aware. That would be G Savior. I know. We'll get into it. But I want to talk to you guys about Mobile Suit Gundam and why do I love Mobile Suit Gundam and why should you too? First of all, Mobile Suit Gundam, let's take it back. When I was a kid, I know that many of you know, in the mid-70s, there was a toy line brought over to the United States by Mattel. And it was called Shogun Warriors. Now, what were the Shogun Warriors? Well, Shogun Warriors were die-cast robots, and then later they added Godzilla and Rodan underneath that brand name. Shogun, James Clavell's book Shogun was, and there's the Shogunate, the Tokugawa Shogunate era. So Shogun, Warlord, Warriors, whatever. It was just a generic term. But what Shogun Warriors were they were super robots from various Japanese animated shows. Unrelated Japanese. Raiden, Mazinga, Gai King, even Getter Robo G, which was Getter, well, in Japan it's Getter Dragon, Getter Liger, Getter Poseidon, but they were brought here as was it Raider, Dragon, and Poseidon? But it was a bunch of unrelated Japanese animated super robot shows that became popular in the 70s, and they were sold under the banner of Shogun Warriors. But they were super robots. In 1979, when Gundam was introduced, Gundam ushered in the era of real robots. Now, people might ask, if you look at a super robot like Mazinga, or you look at the RX-78 classic Gundam mobile suit, you might look at them and think, Rob, what's the difference between a super robot and a real robot? I'm glad you asked, but I figured, how would I explain this? So I just went to the trusty old Wikipedia page because I figured, and they did, lo and behold. A super robot, some of the first mecha featured in manga and anime were super robots. Super roboto. The super robot genre features superhero-like robots that are often one of a kind and the product of an ancient civilization or aliens or a mad genius. These robots are usually piloted by Japanese teenagers via voice command or neural uplink and are often powered by mystical or exotic energy sources, and their abilities are described as quasi-magical. Real robots, on the other hand, are basically anthropomorphized tanks. They are usually piloted, but they are like, think of jet fighters, but instead of jet fighters, you have robots. And in the case of Macross, or as we know it, Robotech, they're jet fighters that transform into robots. So they're real robots, and real robots, the later real robot genre features robots that do not have mythical superpowers, but rather use largely conventional, albeit futuristic weapons and power sources, and are often mass-produced on a large scale for the use in warfare. The real robot genre also tends to feature more complex characters with moral conflicts and personal problems. The genre is therefore aimed primarily at young adults instead of children. The genre has been compared to hard science fiction by its fan base and is strongly associated with the sales of popular toy models such as Gunpla. Anyway, in 1979, the first Gundam was released. And I found a pretty good article from the AV Club about Gundam that I'm just going to read to you, so you have a little bit of a history. A Beginner's Guide to 40 Years of Robots, Rivals, and Sci-Fi Pacifism for Mobile Suit Gundam. This was written by Sam Bersanti on April 7th, 2019. April 7th, 1979, was the date of the Japanese premiere of Yoshiyuki Tomino's Mobile Suit Gundam, a low-rated sci-fi anime show about giant robots that, in the 40 years since, now 42 years since, or 43 years since, has used the awesome power of merchandising to become a pop culture force that's essentially on par with something like Star Wars here in the United States. When Mobile Suit Gundam debuted, most giant robot anime were about magical sentient robots fighting against forces of evil, but Gundam was more of an unflinching, yet still somehow kid-friendly war drama that showed regular people interacting with more realistic machinery. Old mecha anime showed robots being operated by radio commands or fantastical energy, but mecha and Gundam were operated more like they would be in real life, with pedals and levers and tactile switches paving the way for stuff like Robotech here in the West. Since the original show launched, the Gundam brand has raked in money from video games and model kits, all while Japanese animation studio Sunrise has continued to crank out over a dozen sequels and spin-off shows. More than that. Despite this long history, understanding what makes Gundam special isn't actually too hard. You just need to know where to start. So what is a Gundam? The various shows have their own explanations, as they don't all take place in the same universe. I'll get to that in a minute. But the easy version is that it's a specific kind of mobile suit, which is the generic term for a big humanoid robot that a pilot can ride in like a tank. In the original series, mobile suits are used for war because future technology has made long-range equipment like radar and guided missiles useless, and they're shaped like people because, well, it looks cool. There's really no reason. It's just badass. Basically, it was a way to get robots fighting against one another that looked cool, but they also made it into something that, oh, okay, it's people are piloting machines that look like people wearing armor. Whether it's medieval, it's a kind of a cross between medieval armor, samurai armor, and of course, robots. In the original series, mobile suits are used for war because future technology is made, blah, blah, blah. So that, depending on the story, a Gundam is either a state-of-the-art, bleeding-edge weapon of war or an ancient, outdated piece of machinery that was left behind for being too exotic or dangerous. You can tell a Gundam from every other mobile suit because they typically have an eyebrow-like crest on the forehead or a red chin thing and a primarily white paint scheme with occasional red or blue highlights. Some Gundams have wings, some have lightsabers. Yes, beam sabers. You will look at Gundams and be like, oh my god, those are lightsabers. Yes, they were totally ripped off from Star Wars. Some can transform, and some carry big cannons that are the size of an oil tanker. However, the easiest way to identify a Gundam is by figuring out which character in a given show is the good guy. If they have a big robot that totally shreds every other robot, that one is probably the Gundam. You may also recognize the Gundam from its cameo in Ready Player One. The nebulous definition of what a Gundam actually is has allowed Sunrise to design countless different variations on the basic design for different shows, which has also allowed it to merchandise the Gundam brand to oblivion. Gunpla, a portmanteau of Gundam and plastic, is a line of model kits that has been around almost as long as Gundam itself, though the name is a more recent invention, with pretty much every single mobile suit that has ever appeared in any show having been available in different scales with different gimmicks and using different advances in plastic mold technology at some point. Merchandise is so important to the Gundam brand that the official website spends a significant amount of time detailing the different beverages available at Gundam cafes in Japan. So I'm telling you, there you go. Now let me tell you, Gundams appeal to men and women. If you don't believe me, there is a YouTuber named Gunpla Melly. Gunpla Melly. And she is basically a young Jennifer Connelly, I think of mixed descent, who loves Gundams and builds Gundams. And to be flat out honest with you, I'm guilty every time I look at her channel. You'll understand why immediately if you watch one of her videos. But she does go to Japan. She does go Gundam shopping, and I'm always curious what kind of Gundams she buys. Now, for me, who loves Japanese super robots and real robots in die-cast and model kits, it is an endless stream of stuff. I was made aware of Gundam when I was in junior high school. I went to school with a recent Japanese exchange. She wasn't an exchange student. She moved. She lived in my neighborhood, named Kay Marita. And she would like draw pictures of Gundams and would get me Gundams from Japan and Gundam shows. And this was back in soon after Gundam first debuted on Japanese television in 1979. So I was a big Gundam freak. The main Gundam, the first Gundam, the most famous Gundam, is this Gundam. This is the RX-78 Gundam. Now, you'll see on the left, that is a great artist's rendition of the RX-782, classic Gundam. And then on the right is actually a full-size, 1-to-1 scale Gundam they built in Tokyo. You can go see it. Now, this is the first iteration. They have others. So it's Gundam is it's just, let me just tell you, you can't once you fall down this Gundam rabbit hole, it is an endless I can't even begin to tell you what it's like. Now, what's very interesting about Gundam, and I wish somebody would adopt this as far as, say, Star Trek is concerned, that there is one Gundam continuity, the main Gundam continuity, that is, I would call it the prime Gundam continuity, and that is the Universal Century continuity. And the Universal Century continuity is basically, that's kind of like 100-year span of time after mankind has moved into space. And the Universal Century Gundam timeline deals with, there's two different factions. There's the EFF, the Earth Force, or the Earth Force Federation. We're basically Earth. Let's call it Earth. And then there are the people that migrated to space, that live on giant space stations that are very similar to, say, Babylon 5. And these are called sides. And they're the people that are living in space want their independence from Earth. So they basically break away from Earth. And they are called, in the Universal Century, the Principality of Zeon. Now, I'm oversimplifying this just so you can understand. But so basically these two factions go to war. And the overarching idea behind Gundam is it's really about the futility of war. That's what it's about. And there are a lot of sprawling stories and many different shows in the Universal Century. Now, one of the very first Gundam shows that was brought to the West and actually translated, actually was dubbed into English, was Toonami's Gundam Wing, which is not that's set in an alternate Gundam universe. And they have done alternate Gundam shows. They've taken the concept, they've done all different crazy things with Gundam, with shows, different ideas for shows. And Gundam does have great characters, such as this. This is Char, the Red Comet, and depending on how you want, he's part of the Universal Century, and he fights for the Principality of Zeon, and his mobile suits are red, and this guy is a badass. Wouldn't you love to see him in live action? Come on, I know I would. And so anyway, and he fights against Amaro. But so the Gundam series has had many different iterations. So when they want to do a different show, like wacky G Fighter, or they want to do Gundam Seed, or other shows, they've even done prequel shows like Gundam The Origin from 2015. It's actually very cool. It's a whole rabbit hole that you will fall down, and if you're into it, it's a lot of fun, and I love it. So, however, I wanted to jump in and go over. I found a pretty good article, and I wanted to give you a primer of the different Gundam shows and what year they take place in the Universal Century. But again, it started out with the original Mobile Suit Gundam. But if you wanna go in a quick order of the shows, one would be from 2015, Gundam Origin. It takes place in Universal Century year 68. It's from 2015. The second one would be the original Mobile Suit Gundam movies. Takes place in Universal Century year 79. That would be just Mobile Suit Gundam. Then there is 8th MS Team, which also takes place in Universal Century year 79. That's from 1996. There is MS Igloo, also taking place in 79 from 2004. There is Gundam Thunderbolt, also taking place in Universal Century year 79 from 2015. There is 0080 War in the Pocket that takes place in year 80 of the Universal Century. That's from 1989. There is 0083, which was made in 1983. Stardust Memory, which is also from takes place in Universal Century year 83. That was from 91. Then there is one of the greats, one of the big sequels to the original Gundam. People say it's the best Gundam show. Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam from 1980. Well, it's Universal Century 87. It's from 1985. And Mobile Suit ZZ Gundam, which is the sequel to Zeta Gundam, from 86. And then we have 9, Char's Counterattack, which is dope. It's a movie. Takes place in the year 93 from 1988. There's Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, which is one of my favorites. I love the Unicorn Gundam design from 2010. And that was Universal Century year 96. There is Gundam F91 from 1991 that takes place in Universal Century year 123. There is Victory Gundam from 93 that takes place in Universal Century year 153. And then Turn A Gundam, which is 2,000 years after the Universal Century in what is called the Correct Century, 2305. And that's a pretty wacky show that I happen to like. But those are the up to now, those are the Universal Century Gundam shows. But there's a lot more. There's a lot more. And they're a lot of fun. And I love them. And I will show you, I will show you, I've pulled a few of my favorite Gundams, my favorite mobile suits from the history of Gundam. And in no particular order, I will show them to you. This is Turn A Gundam. The first one I'm going to show you is from the far future. And this Gundam was actually designed by the great Sid Mead. So there is Turn A Gundam with, this is known as the Mustache Gundam, because it looks like he has a mustache. And you can kind of see that he has a mustache. And again, that is from the far future, the far-flung future. And you can see how classic that Gundam is. I like it. A lot of people don't. I don't know why. I don't understand why people don't like this Gundam. I mean, it's redolent of the RX-78, the classic Gundam, but it's kind of updated. I kind of think about this. People might not agree with me, but I think about this kind of like the refit Enterprise of the Gundam world, the RX-78 Gundam. I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, you could look at it that way, I suppose. This is Gundam Unicorn, which is a badass Gundam, and there's great model kits and by the way, there's a zillion Gundam toys. If you start collecting Gundam toys, you gotta just pick one. If you're gonna go Metal Build Solid, you're gonna be paying a lot of money for those, but they're awesome. I mean, it's trust me, it is a rabbit hole you will never ever escape. So, and this might be, I don't know, this is one of my favorite Gundams. This is the new Gundam from Char's Counterattack with I just love the design of this Gundam. It's so badass. Anyway, I know you're all probably bored listening to me talk about Gundam, and if you want to delve into the Gundam universe, you can. There's so much to look at. But you know what? Even though it's not the first Gundam show, if you dig it, I would check out Gundam Origin, because that's from 2015. It's about the Universal Century. It's actually, I guess, the earliest Universal Century show. It kind of sets up everything, even though it was done in 2015. The animation is more modern. If you go back and you look at the 1979, the original Gundam series, or you can watch the 3 movies, that are all available on home video, and I'm sure you can find them streaming all over the place because they have been for a long time. Check them out. But start with Gundam Origin. You know, if you dig it, if you like Gundam Origin, you'll kind of get into the whole universe. Now, if you want to start watching them, you can go, what is the Universal Century in chronological order? You can do that if you want, and I would recommend it. So today's news. So here's the thing. Sunrise, that owns Gundam, like any other Japanese property, animated property, there's a lot of legal rigmarole and the ownership that you have to go through and deal with before you're ever going to be allowed to. That's why, I mean, who knows if Legends of the Galactic Heroes, my favorite anime of all time, will ever wind up here in the States. I don't know. If I could do it, I would. If I could do one adaptation of anything, I would do Legend of the Galactic Heroes. But so it was surprising to me how difficult it was to extricate the rights or to make a Gundam film. But so it was announced today. And now, by the way, let me just read this before people go, "Oh, Rob, you're blah, blah, blah." So there was G. Saver. Yes. In 1999, there was a Canadian live-action television film called G. Savior, made by Polestar Entertainment and Bandai Visual distributed. And the film was produced as part of the Big Bang Gundam project, which is a series of works made to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Gundam franchise in 1999. Set in the Universal Century timeline, G. Savior was produced as a joint effort between the animation studio and creator of Gundam, Sunrise, and an independent film production company, Polestar Entertainment. The film was released theatrically in Japan on June 8th, 1999, and was first broadcast on December 29th, 2000, on TV Asahi and its affiliate ANN stations. So that was a Universal Century project. If you love G. Savior, I get it. But let's just say it might not have lived up to what you were hoping from a Gundam live-action show, to put it mildly. But anyway, so today, and glory be, glory to the universe, this news dropped. April 12th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, 1:18 p.m., just a little over an hour ago. Jordan Vogt Roberts to direct Gundam live-action movie from Legendary. We're talking Toho Legendary, Pacific fucking Rim Legendary. There's no other production company in the United States that should have made this except Legendary. Kudos to them. They currently obviously have Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters now, streaming on HBO Max. They're making this directly with Netflix, and God love them. I mean, do I wish this would go out theatrically in 70 millimeter? Yes. And of course, Jordan Vogt Roberts directed directed Kong Skull Island, so he is no stranger to the kind of technology, the effects technology that must be employed here in this. But let me read this article, because let me just tell you, this article made me wet. I'm not going to lie. Netflix said Monday that it has set Kong Skull Island helmer Jordan Vogt Roberts to direct a live-action Gundam based on the iconic Japanese mecha franchise. The feature film hails from Legendary, which is reteaming with Vogt Roberts from Skull Island and comes off the outsized box office success of its tentpole Godzilla vs. Kong. And this is even better. Why the Last Man scribe, Brian K. Vaughan, who's worked on a ton of things, but he was a comic book writer turned screenwriter, is handling screenplay duties for the project, which he is also executive producing with Legendary's Cale Boyder and Japanese studio Sunrise, which originated the franchise. Vogt Roberts is also producing. The plot for the movie is under wraps, but the original franchise is set in the Universal Century, an era in which humanity's growing population has led people to immigrate to space colonies. Eventually, the people living in the colonies seek their autonomy and launch a war of independence against the people living on Earth. The battles in the story are fought by the characters piloting robots known as mobile suits. The original franchise launched with 1979's anime series Mobile Suit Gundam, considered the pioneer of the giant robot mecha genre, created by Sunrise and Yoshiyuki Tamino. It spurred numerous TV series, novels, mangas, video games, and Bandai Namco's popular plastic model kits, of which I have many. I have many Gundams around, actually. If you can't really see them. There's a Gundam right up there, as a matter of fact, from Gundam Unicorn, but I won't grab it. But I have many, and my Gundam of choice if I'm buying Gundam. I do like I used to love the version Cobb Gundams, but I like the metal build Gundams. The problem is, like everything else, every other toy I like, $250 to $350. You know, they're die cast. They're awesome, but they're also hideously expensive. They came out with my favorite Gundam, the new Gundam, in a new die cast format, which was $1,000. I couldn't get my hands on one. They were sold out. I didn't even know they were out. They were gone. Still want to get one, but they're gone. And my other favorite are the Gundam models, the Gunpla, the 1/60th scale perfect grade kits, of which the Ultimate RX-78 has. Well, it's already out. You can watch build videos of the new Gundam model, the RX-78 Gundam, the perfect grade model that came out. It's the best Gundam model ever. I've had mine on order for a year. It was supposed to come in this month sometime. Maybe I'll get it. If I do it, there's other build videos out there, but maybe I'll do like a build and play live action or live stream where I just build this Gundam. I don't know if anybody'd be interested, but something to do. Anyway, let me just say that my God, is this exciting. I mean, the right people, Brian Vaughn will make the script work. And I think Mr. Roberts will absolutely, he's right director. He's already made a kaiju movie. And that kaiju movie had great interaction between helicopters and Kong. So I can only imagine if they're going to go back. I would imagine they're going to retell the Mobile Suit Gundam story that was the basis of the first series and movie, the 3 movies that you can get, which are all very good. That would be with Amuro and man, White Base, all the stuff that can't wait. I mean, to see Zaku's fighting the RX-78 for real with modern effects technology, dude, I'm very, very excited. But, I mean, come on. How excited are you to see actually, because they have to do this. They have to do the classic RX-78 in live action. I mean, look at that. They might mute the colors a bit, but, I mean, this is it, man. Look at that thing on the left. That thing fighting other mobile suits, wouldn't you want to see that? I know I would. So I'm really excited. I think this is very exciting news. And let me tell you, it's almost like somebody just made this for me. I know there's a lot of people out there that love Gundam. There's a billion videos you can watch on the internet about Mobile Suit Gundam. If your interest is at all piqued, I'm telling you, watch some Gundam. Start with Gundam the Origin. It's more adult. The animation is pretty good, and it's good stuff. Oh, Darren McKinnon, I could care less about Gundam. You'll care. Come on, man. Anyway, very exciting. I'm very excited. I mean, I don't know if you guys are going to ever be as excited, but I've been wanting to see a Gundam movie for a very long time, and I think it's perfect fodder. I think so. Anyway. You know what? I'm going to read a letter from Donnie Pearson. I'm going to start with Donnie Pearson. Hello, Rob and fellow PGSers. Well, I've seen the 2021 Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest, and one of my favorite parts, the revealing of Jordan Fight as Gold Ranger Ion in Power Rangers Dino Fury. First of all, Donnie Pearson is always writing letters to me about Power Rangers. I don't read them much, but I'm reading yours now. I'm loving that part so dearly. Also among my favorite parts, the new Power Rangers toys. Darn shame that Hasbro version of Dr. Tommy Oliver's Master Morpher from the Dimensions in Danger episode of Super Ninja Steel hasn't been made yet, but I hope it will happen in time for the franchise's 30th anniversary. What do you think? Thanks, and may the power protect you all. Well, Donnie, he writes, more phenomenally yours, Donnie. P.S. I dedicate this letter in remembrance to Prince Philip. My condolences to my friends in the United Kingdom, Canada, and the rest of the Commonwealth nations. God save the Queen. Well, Donnie, what I do love about you, my friend, is your love of Power Rangers matches Stubble McShave's love of the Wheel of Time. So, good to have you here. Thanks. Keep writing. I don't want to discourage you. But yeah. Very exciting. I'm glad that you were excited. You know who's back? Speaking of people from Sweden, Emil Johansson is back. Hey, Rob, I just want to send a short letter. Do you think that the MCU is moving away a bit from comedy and into drama now? The reason I'm thinking that is because of the recent shows. I'm sure they all have the standard jokes, and Marvel is pretty good at making them. However, in WandaVision, she was basically confronting her nightmares, and in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they're sort of dealing with the absence of Steve Rogers, and in the Loki show, it seems to have Loki meet consequences for his actions. This all seems like they're starting to focus more into emotional tugging. Do you think this would be an interesting new direction for them if they do take it? Well, Emil, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm all there for it. You know, they started showing us what are the ramifications of what's going on in Civil War. The Sokovia Accords, you know, the fallout from what happened in Age of Ultron. And I think this is what's making the shows interesting, because they had to do sort of something different. And I think they're doing a great job. I'm really enjoying it. This comes from Joe P. Joe P. writes in, "Good morrow, RMB. I first became aware of your metal self, or should I say transparent aluminum self, since it is much harder way back when on Heroes. A fanatic slice of fandom that seems like it took place many, many moons ago. It kind of did. You're referring to Collider Heroes, which I started on in 2 days from now is my 6th anniversary on YouTube, beginning with Collider Heroes, which was called back then AMC Heroes, with the late, great John Schnepp and John Campea. Like you, my love for Star Trek runs through my core, dare I say my warp core. Its mythos of hope, hard work, camaraderie, inclusion, ingenuity was just sheer inspiration which molded me into the man I am today. TNG first aired when I was a mere lad of 7 years old. The year prior, I saw my first Star Trek movie on the big screen where Scotty had exclaimed that, "There be whales here." That would be The Voyage Home from 1986. Needless to say, I was hooked as a child on this thing called Star Trek. I know, right? It's not like you needed some, Nickelodeon series to discover the show. Needless to say, I was hooked as a child on this thing called Star Trek, which shaped my worldview. When they announced new Star Trek series, I was excited to say the least. I loved TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. I always thought the ending of Voyager was a bit rushed. I would have loved to have seen their transition to what the Federation had become while they were stranded, as well as how the Maquis crew members would have dealt with the Federation while back in the Alpha Quadrant. Enterprise had some nice and enjoyable moments, I thought, looking back. Enterprise, while had some nice, enjoyable moments, I thought it was looking back rather than what Star Trek had always been doing, which was look forward. Correct, yes. The JJ-verse, well, to me, that was a big-budget fan film by someone who was never a fan. Yet I had high hopes for the new series, and boy, what a letdown. It seems as though the victimhood mentality of society, where everybody labels themselves in order to feel special or wronged, has infested my Star Trek. Much like Species 8472, this way of thinking is infecting and destroying what we love. I have a t-shirt that says, "Label jars are not people." I wish the human race would live by that motto. I recently saw interviews on First Contact Day saying that children were never too into Star Trek. Well, that is false. I am living proof. The new shows push a woke agenda and bang these tropes over the viewer's head while sacrificing the telling of a good story. They act as if Star Trek was an all-straight white man series since its inception, which could not be further from the truth. First of all, you know what I want to say about that? Star Trek was always niche. As much as they might have wanted it to be mainstream, it never broke through the mainstream when it first aired, even though it got great ratings with the demographic that they would hope it would. They just didn't measure demographics back then. Star Trek was always niche. It always appealed to a certain group of everyone. It didn't appeal to everybody. And certainly for children, it only appealed to a certain kind of kid, which is what you want your audience to be, I would think. Star Trek had the first interracial kiss, a plethora of awesome multicultural and multiracial characters. Damn, I wish Michael Dorn got his own Worf series. DS9 with Dax's same-sex kiss, the first female captain. So many more boundary-breaking initiatives that were inspiring. Why? Because it meant a damn when they're all interwoven into a good story. Geez, I went off on a tangent here. I began writing this just to say thank you, Rob. I might not agree with any or all of your politics or your choice of pizza toppings. I do appreciate your candor and insight into not only movies in general, but as a damn near historian of my beloved Trek. I have lost all hope for Discovery, but I'm clinging to every last strain of hope for Picard. If they're bringing back Guinan and Q, there are stories there. Remember in Best of Both Worlds, Guinan alluded that her and Picard were more than friends. Hey now. Q alluded that she was an imp. Clearly, Q and Guinan have history, and I'm hoping if they bring her back, they'll delve into that. What say you, Transparent Aluminum One? Is there a shred of hope for Season 2 of Picard? Live long and prosper. Joe P. Well, Joe, thanks for writing in. Clearly, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Is there hope for Picard Season 2? Well, as a general rule, I think there's always hope for anything. The problem with Picard Season 2 is that you're always going to have to refer back to Picard Season 1, which I think, again, was one of the worst seasons of televised science fiction we've ever seen. And it also completely, literally destroyed the character of Jean-Luc Picard from its, they changed him into something he was not. And then by the end of the show, they killed him and resurrected him as a robot. Jean-Luc Picard died in Star Trek Picard. And why they chose to do that, I will never know. But why they choose to go the AI, the killer evil AI route one more time, while at the same time bringing in willy-nilly Seven of Nine, Romulan nuns, the Borg, Icheb, which is who they killed, Hugh, get rid of him. I mean, it was... and the unbelievable lack of respect for all life in that show made Star Trek Picard, to me, probably the biggest pox on the Star Trek franchise ever. Ever. I mean, that show is so hateful in so many ways. I could probably teach a whole college course on it. And I know some people liked it. Was it cool to see Patrick Stewart come back? Yeah, but he wasn't playing Jean-Luc Picard. Well, but Rob, it's Jean-Luc Picard later in life. Was it? I didn't believe that the character of Jean-Luc Picard went that way. You know what that was? That was Patrick Stewart, who liked to play Professor Xavier and Logan. I really enjoyed what they did with the character. I appreciate that, Jean-Luc Picard. I appreciate that, Patrick Stewart. But your character, Jean-Luc Picard, would never act the way he acted in any of Star Trek Picard. I mean, the same objections people had to The Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker, I would say that I don't think I've ever seen a pop culture character more out of character than he was in Star Trek Picard. He was a guest star of his own show. He was jobbed on his own show. And I hated every minute of Star Trek Picard. As beautifully produced as it was, I thought it was one of the most major misfires of anything I've ever seen in my life. Yes, I am prone to hyperbole, but I hated Star Trek Discovery, but my hatred of Star Trek Discovery is kind of on a constant simmer. My hatred of Picard boiled over, and when the show was over, I'm telling you, I did want to scoop my eyeballs out with a teaspoon, and the optic nerves that would have been dangling, I want to just pour acid so it would go right in the hole that was left into my brain and put me out of my misery. That's how much I hated Star Trek Picard. I was dumbfounded how fucking terrible that show was, and what a bastardization of most Star Trek concepts, and how racist it was. Hey, a woman of color is literally living in a trailer in the grips of addiction and poverty in the 24th century. What brain trust came up with that? I'll tell you, writers that suck. So, I hated Star Trek Picard. So, as far as Star Trek Picard Season 2, well, aside from the fact that Picard is dead, I would be hard-pressed to think any television show could get worse than Star Trek Picard was. And if you like it, I do not begrudge you that. I did not. I did not. Ruben Hilbers comes back and says, to Mr. Hulk, Mr. Godzilla, and King Kong, exalted ruler of the Hollow Earth, regarded gentlemen, I am sorry to inform you that your services will no longer be required to defend planet Earth from extraterrestrial or monstrous threats. Instead of using you, we will be placing Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett facing the threat and then whisper the words Star Trek Discovery or Alex Kurtzman in his ear. This will result in Mr. Burnett generating an epic rant that will deflect the threat. In the extremely unlikely circumstance that this should fail, Miss Willow Yang will be available to fire off several sharp-tongued letters at the issue. We thank you for your service once again. Best regards, anonymous studio employee. P.S. No, I'm not telling you my name because I'm too young to die and your agents scare me, especially Mama Hulk. The last time she was in the office, she said that if we didn't hire her Brucey Woosey, she would rip out all the spinal cords and beat us to death with them. Well, Ruben, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm here for you, buddy, and I appreciate you being here for me. So there you go. What can I say? Gosh, there's so much. This one comes from Jason Webster. Jason says, "Hi, Robert. I hope yourself and the amazing members of the Post-Geek Singularity have enjoyed an amazing weekend and are energized for the week ahead. One of the greatest rock bands ever is the British group Queen. Led by the greatest frontman in the history of rock and roll music and the incomparable Freddie Mercury, Queen was a rock group for the ages. Whether it was their numerous memorable songs such as Somebody to Love, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Radio Gaga, It's a King of Magic, or their sold-out concert tours, the fact Mercury's miraculous voice was exceptional in traversing through different ranges with ease was one thing. However, his amazing stage presence through his charisma and charm was something else entirely. He always seemed to hold the audience in the palm of his hand as if holding court. He was the ruler of the stage he walked on. That is before you get to Brian May's equally sublime guitar playing. In fact, Freddie Mercury, Brian May, John Deacon, and Roger Taylor seem perfect for complementing each other's musical styling. The fact he and other members of Queen always enjoyed performing and carried audiences along with them, giving each person who attended a Queen concert a memorable experience to last a lifetime. Perhaps the best example of Mercury's innate ability to captivate a crowd is the group's 12-minute performance during the history-making Live Aid concert held at famed Wembley Stadium on Saturday the 13th of July, 1985, some 36 years ago. The concert, which was conducted simultaneously with one held at John F. Kennedy Stadium in Philadelphia, was a charity event to raise money for the relief effort for the people starving in the drought-ravaged country of Ethiopia and Africa. Mercury and Queen gave a masterclass in how to enthrall and energize an audience in front of 72,000 people that were in attendance in the hallowed stadium. Many industry experts, music historians, and fans have classified Queen's brief yet command performance as the greatest live rock music performance of all time. Many have said this performance certainly saved Live Aid. Queen was one of 20 acts to perform on the stage at Wembley for the event. I felt blessed to have grown up and experienced that era where there were numerous rock groups comprised of staggeringly talented musicians whose personalities expressed a true love of music and were not only willing to experiment and grow as musicians, but genuinely wanted to entertain audiences. Queen, Roxy Music, Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd, Van Halen, Kiss, the Doobie Brothers, Heart, INXS, Men at Work, Cold Chisel, U2, the Eurythmics, Huey Lewis and the News, Duran Duran, the list goes on and on. For many of them, their stories bear similarities from starting out in humble beginnings playing in bars and clubs to strutting their stuff in the mega stadiums of the world, achieving commercial and critical success and ultimately legendary status. And while their styles differ, they all exhibited the same love of music. I highly regard the era between 1960 to 1990 as the greatest era of popular music, especially the 1980s with the experimentation that led to the formation of heavy metal, punk rock, hard rock, new wave, synth pop, grunge, rap, hip hop, and so on. So many singers and bands were willing to push the boundaries of what was capable with music. I still regularly listen to these musicians, as do I. Come to think of it, their music dominates my CD and digital music collections. I have fond memories of the music and films of the era of my childhood and adolescence. For example, there were many friendships that were formed with people out of our shared love of music during that era. I will cherish those memories for the rest of my life. I hope yourself and the lovely members of the Post-Geek Singularity enjoy the week ahead. Sincerely, Jason Webster. Well, Jason, I'm with you. On one hand, I remember when I used to be heavily into music. Like, I would read New Music Express from the UK. I religiously read Rolling Stone, and I read the Billboard charts. And, like, for instance, if the Billboard, the Rolling Stone college album charts or whatever, I would always try and buy every one of those CDs. And I was a big, big, big fan of music. I'm not anymore. Like, at all. All I listen to is older stuff. And I'm wondering if that's just a function of getting older. But on the other hand, you know, I haven't heard a lot. There's still a lot of great music being made today. There are. I just don't think that the world is the same. You know, before, with everyone listening to radio, it's like everything else. You would have bands that would dominate our pop culture landscape because of corporate rock and I'm not, when I say corporate rock, I don't mean that corporations were controlling rock and roll, even though they were, but you know, radio airplay and the hit makers were very real, but we were really bonded by, because how would you hear music? Unless you bought it yourself, you were hearing it on the radio or on MTV. MTV was another big thing with the advent of music video in the early 80s. It was a big deal, but our entire youth culture was bonded by, we all knew the same things. We were all aware of the same things. And while we all, you know, I didn't necessarily like hair metal as much as I would like to say Prince, I still was aware of it, and we still knew. And a lot of this music would bond us together on a grand scale. That does not happen anymore. Sure, you might have an earworm single that comes out, or, hey, I understand Taylor Swift's new album, which is a reconceptualization of her original album of the same title, because she's taking her back. She kept her publishing. She was smart. She can re-record her own songs, which is great. But I don't think that music has the unifying cultural force that it once had. It doesn't dominate the landscape the way it used to. And also, while there's some great players, like I look at people, I see people on out there on the internet who are incredible musicians, but I don't see them fronting bands. And I just think we live in a different world. I think popular music has changed. I think the fragmentation that came about because of the internet, I mean, there's so much available now. And I do like seeing younger people. What are younger people getting into? They're hearing older music. Why? Because the iconic nature of that music is undeniable. I mean, I've often thought about certain electric guitar riffs. When was the last time you heard an electric guitar riff that was brand new and original? That, I mean, I know someone's going to write into me and say there was. Assume I'm an old man that doesn't know what I'm talking about. But you think about some of the classic. Led Zeppelin had a lot of classic guitar riffs. AC/DC had a lot of classic guitar riffs. The Eagles' Hotel California, that acoustic guitar opening. There was music that, I don't know, it reached into the human subconscious and really grabbed at you. I don't hear a lot of that. I wish I did. I don't hear a lot of that as much. I mean, a lot of music is really constructed now. It's constructed in a studio, so a lot of the things that you're hearing can't be recreated live. That's why I think a lot of the bands that are touring, like I went and saw the Joshua Tree tour when it was here in the Rose Bowl here in Pasadena. I saw the Joshua Tree tour originally. I went up to Vancouver with some friends of mine, and we saw the original because they didn't come to Seattle, so we went up to Vancouver and saw it, and it was incredible. But watching it again, like I've gone to see. At the Rose Bowl, like Coldplay. I know, don't judge. I went and saw Coldplay or U2, big arena bands. Muse, I saw Muse downtown with Dave Parker. I mean, I think Muse is a band that I really enjoy. But it's just a different world, you know, and I don't think we're unified by music the way that we used to be. At least not in America. I think in other places like the UK, pop music has always been more of a unifying force. It's always been more of a part of the cultural landscape. It's meant more. But, you know, I don't know. I think you're right. I think everything that you wrote about was absolutely correct. Well, I'm going to save this letter. I'm going to save this letter for tomorrow, for the 666 episode. Now, look, I don't really have anything special planned. for the 666th episode. I will for the episode 700. Yeah, I just thought episode 666 was fun. I'll have the playlist ready. Everybody's choices will be incorporated into that. But yeah, let's jump in and see what you all are saying today, because I don't know. Let's get back here. Now, I missed a few yesterday because of obviously I fixed my problems clearly. Boy, was that frustrating. I felt like I was banging my head against a wall. Wow, there is certainly a lot of, let's see, where was I? Let me see. This is all Midnight Metal. Let's see. Oh, I'm still not caught up. I apologize for I slipped. So, here it is. Lily Burger. That's where now I know where I'm at. Lily Burger. That's where I was. Lily Burger sends in a tip and says, with people giving shit to Kathleen Kennedy and her group on the new Star Wars, let's not forget that George Lucas and his group gave us the holiday special and not one, but 2 Ewok movies, which, by the way, are now on Disney+. You can watch the original Clone Wars cartoon series. You can watch both The Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage, the Ewok movies. And you can watch the Ewok animated series. I'm sure Droids will drop soon. Lily Burger goes on to say, Kathleen Kennedy's group may have not had a plan, but the Lucas group was fucking straight out smoking crack back in the day. And since Abrams blew up Endor in The Force Awakens, he should have had one of those little bastards being shown flung up into space. Did he blow up Endor? Was Endor blown up? And smacking into the windshield of a passing ship, at least had some fun with it. Well, first of all, I don't think George Lucas had a lot to do with the holiday special. I think probably he regrets that. And the holiday special is uniquely one of the most awful things. It's worse than Picard. It's bad. I do have a Blu-ray of it though, but it's not good, and it's really, really hard to watch. I think the only thing in it that's even remotely, the first 20 minutes is literally you could watch it and completely, you could be on what is it, DMT, whatever it is. The whole thing's like a drug trip. It's just insane. If you've never seen the holiday special, don't bother, but it is quite insane. Willow says, I'm pretty thrilled seeing Disney going more mature with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. If you had the super soldier serum, would you take it? Oh, I absolutely would. 100%. I would take the super soldier serum. I don't think it's necessarily, for me, I would have no qualms taking the super soldier serum, but I wouldn't want to do bad. I would just, keep me in great shape. I'd be in physical condition. Hopefully, I guess if you have the super soldier serum, maybe you live longer. I don't know if that's necessarily true, if it's part of it, but I bet you might. And you'd probably live better, just being in better shape. I would love it. I'd love to take the super soldier serum. I wouldn't turn into some arch criminal, though. Oh, I don't think, unless it drove me a little wacky. Anonymous says, not trying to be offensive here, but with people not wanting the 666 show on Sunday, but for centuries the Jews followed the seventh day as being on a Saturday, it wasn't until the late 1500s that the calendar was changed, having Sunday as the seventh day. Well, look, everyone, there were some people that expressed concern that I was going to do the 666 show on Sunday. Well, it's not like I was going to have a black mass. The devil has been a character in pop culture and has been a character in the Bible for a very long time. I was saying, look, I was being a little bit mindful, but that wasn't the only reason. And by the way, ultimately, as it turned out, if I had done, for whatever reason, if I had tried to do the show yesterday, I wouldn't have been able to, it would have been doubly frustrating because I was having a very strange computer issue that especially with Wirecast and hooking up to YouTube, that I've never had before. I even talked to John Campy about it today, and the software I use, Wirecast, he was like, I've never even heard of that problem. And when I was trying to figure out what the problem was, going through their help, going on forums, and no one else had that problem I was having either. There was literally something happening with my software which showed that it should have been working, and it wasn't. So, it all works out in the end. Look, I respect everybody else's beliefs in their own religion, but it is not up to me to appease everybody, their beliefs. But you can also be polite. And there were some people that I surprisingly expressed, they're like, even Elizabeth's like, she grew up in an Adventist household. And for me to openly mock people's deeply held beliefs with celebrating the devil, celebrating Satan, I'm not really celebrating. I think the character of Satan as to me, is the ultimate antagonist. Satan is the ultimate antagonist. He's a fallen angel. He presides over hell where all the souls of the damned go. But since I don't believe in any of that stuff anyway, I mean, I've always found the devil. I love the devil as a character. The conception of the devil, I think it's a great. There's no better antagonist. There's no better. I mean, what does he want? He wants to preside over, because he has to preside over the suffering of everyone. He wants your soul. The things he wants are a lot of fun. As far as storytelling goes, if you love horror movies, the root of all horror is the devil, really. The devil and human behavior toward one another. And then what happens when humans die and become vengeful ghosts, which I would assume are aided and abetted by the devil. So, Michael Sheets says, greetings from Italy. By the way, I started watching 000 on Amazon, which is a pretty damn good show. That was originally started as it's an Italian show, which I thought was cool. Mike in Iowa asks, what if Stark had killed Barnes in Civil War? Rogers not in a position to prevent the early deaths of Vision and Wanda. No team-up and last stand in Wakanda, so the Black Order assists Thanos on Titan. Stark, Strange, Parker, and the Guardians are killed. No snap reverse. Yeah, but then you wouldn't be making movies about superheroes anymore. Everybody would just be gone. And Thanos would have showed up on Earth. There would have been no opposition. He would have snapped his fingers and half the people on Earth would be gone. And would that have been such a bad thing after 10 or 20 years? I mean, eventually we would have gotten back up to pre-snap population, but you never know. Who knows? Yeah. It wouldn't have been good. Wouldn't have been good. Stub McShave says, if you're going to get Spaceballs in 4K, it should be an episode on Liz Views. Yes, after Sucker Punch, which I was going to do. We were going to do that last night, but I couldn't make it work. Couldn't make it work. I was able to make it work because I figured out why. But Spaceballs, I am so not a fan of Spaceballs, but I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Willow says, also, happy belated birthday to Nancy Burnett. Why, thank you. My mother's birthday. Ooh, I was going to call her. You know what? I had a whole bit that I was going to do. And, wait a minute. I had a bit that I was going to do, and now I don't see. Wait a minute. Did I leave my phone? That's not good. I don't know what happened. By the way, this is an aside. So I get this package. Today. And I didn't order anything. It's a package. I opened it up. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go full screen on this. So I got this package in the mail today. And by the way, it's from Ravenwood Coings. Ravenwood Coings. From Yelm, Washington. Now, Washington's my home state, and Yelm, there are two cities in Washington that I always associate as being together, Yelm and Squim. I don't think I've ever received a package from Yelm before, but I got a package. I didn't order anything from there. I don't know what Ravenwood Coings even is. Obviously, the name Ravenwood rings a bell, but surprisingly, more of a bell than I would have realized when I first got this package. Here's what was in it. Hi, Rob. Since you are a fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm sure you would know what this is. It's heavy. Actually, it's really heavy. And I know you all know what this is. This beautiful headpiece to the staff of Raw was made by the talented folks at Ravenwood Coins. I hope you like it. Well, I will only like it if I take back one kadam for the Hebrew God whose ark this is. Heil Hitler. Look at that. Look at this. Now, I've never heard of Ravenwood Coins before, but I would assume maybe this is their initial offering. This is badass. Now, leave it to Cal. I mean, leave it to Swag Props to send me this. I mean, this is really heavy. Like, if you could feel this, this is a really heavy thing. And it's funny to me because they must have sent it to me directly, but how did they get Cal's letter in it if it came from Yelm, Washington? And I just got this today, so I haven't done due diligence or proper research into this. But let me just say, I'm going to look. As a matter of fact, why don't you bear with me while we look for Ravenwood Coins? Maybe they have a website. I don't know. Ravenwood Coins home. They have a Facebook page. Wow. Okay, they have a Facebook page. There is a Facebook page, Ravenwood Coins. They have a cool... Hello and welcome. I've been a lifelong fan of our favorite hero and obtainer of rare antiquities. I just want to enhance the fandom with quality coins. Wow. Everybody go to Ravenwood Coins on that, and that's one. It's at Ravenwood Coins would be on Twitter as well, but they have Ravenwood Coins as a Facebook page, and they have it here. Another round of headpieces going out today. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as I had these headpieces made, gems installed, packed, and shipped. It is a lengthy process for a lone adventure, but you all make it worth it. Still taking orders on these as well. Please contact me for ordering information, fortune, and glory. If you're a... Now, obviously, these are not accurate. They're not exact prop replicas, but this is really cool. I mean, I can't... This is really heavy, and I'm going to put it, I'll put it on my shelf up here or something. I mean, this is, if you're a Raiders fan, this is cool. This is really cool. So I want to thank Sean for sending this to me. Sean from Ravenwood Coins, thank you very much. I did not know that you existed, but thanks to Cal, thanks to Swag Props and his lovely letter. Thank you, and thank you for sending these to me. I have no idea what they cost, but I can say this. They are badass. They're very badass. So if it's something that you want to get into, might I suggest doing just that? It's definitely something worth owning. Jack Wallace, our friend Jack Wallace, and his son Aiden, action figure collector. Action figure collector is pretty sick today. Could you show off one of your cool action figures for him? Well, I could. Well, first of all, I don't know if you saw this, but since this is here, this is my third-party Green Goblin. This is a badass figure. This is not even a official Hot Toys figure. This is a third-party, which means... it's totally unlicensed. Here's the glider that it comes with. But this thing is badass. I mean, the detail is incredible. So this would be Willem Dafoe in the suit, and there are the pumpkin bombs. I mean, that's pretty badass. And, look at how cool this figure is. It's really, really cool. So what else that you might be interested in? Here's another one. Here is Peter Parker. As Iron Spider from Infinity War. This is a Hot Toys figure of the Iron Spider from Infinity War. I love this figure, and this is really great because you can't hear it, can you? The spider the arms are ratcheted. This is, to me, I mean, this is some peak Hot Toys action here. I really love this figure a lot. I think this figure is great. I really dig it. I think it's pretty dope. And then here's of course here's the Hot Toys Deadpool. This is great. This is another really terrific figure. He is bristling with weapons that come out. His swords are metal. But this is a great figure. You know what's really cool about... Here, I'm going to set this figure down for a second. It's going to slide all over the place. Okay. What's really cool about this figure, Aiden... what I love about Hot Toys figures is this Deadpool figure. Look at this. So, his eyes... I mean, I don't have the box with the rest of them. But his eyes... He comes with multiple eyes. So, you can actually... Oh, great. I just dropped his eye. I dropped his eye on my desk. Now I have to find it, Aiden. I'll find it, but I don't know. I don't want to disturb anything. I have to find it. Darn it. Well, you can change his expression based on his eyes, and I'll have to find it here because I just have a lot of junk on my desk. So I will do that, and then let's see. And since you want to see another one since you're sick, here is. It's a little older, but here's Christopher Reeve from Superman, the movie. This is the Christopher Reeve Hot Toy from Superman, the movie. And he's great. And he's in his Fortress of Solitude base, which I have to put the pieces back onto, but there he is. And once again, here is T'Challa. Chad Boseman, here's Black Panther. The Hot Toys Black Panther. And this is, again, another great figure. So, yeah. And I've shown this before, but since, it's easy to get to, here is the Hot Toys Thanos. His Infinity Gauntlet lights up, but I haven't made it light up, and he's about to snap his fingers. So he's about to snap his fingers, and his helmet comes off. And he's Thanos in battle mode. So there you go. So Aiden, I hope you feel better. And those are the figures that I can grab right away. So there you go. All right. I hope you feel better, man. Wolverine 626 sent in a super chat and says, "Ask and ye shall receive. Shout Factory announces Brotherhood of the Wolf Blu-ray for July 27, 2021. Wow, that's cool. Is it gonna have all the special features they have on the 3-disc Canadian release? Because I'm so there for that. You know what I haven't done? I haven't even switched over. Let me switch this back over and go back to your super chats. I love Brotherhood of the Wolf. We did that for Whining About Movies. I love that. Fantastic. Twin Flicks says Sony just announced Wolfgang Petersen's film In the Line of Fire for 4K UHD on June 15th. I saw that, and I love In the Line of Fire. I'll get that. Also, Mondo announced a 7 LP set of Zack Snyder's Justice League score. No word yet if there will also be a CD set available, but here are the details. Link in next message. Wow, I'll put that in. Wow, Mondo is putting out a 7. That might be worth getting. That's pretty cool. Here's this. Here's the link. 7 discs, 7 LPs. That's crazy. Joshua Levesque, my own moderator, says, "Hey, Rob, I'd like to give a shout-out to Eduardo Cruz, a great guy with a terrific sense of humor. He's been trying to make Quibi a greeting for a while now, and we should help him. So, Quibi Rob and Quibi to everyone in the live chat, hashtag restore Quibi as a greeting. Josh, you're on thin ice, buddy, and so are you, Eduardo Cruz. Quibi is dead and gone where it should be. Do not bring Quibi back as a greeting. Don't try and make fetch happen. Don't do it. We're all going to be made lesser for it. Do not do it." The lovely Emma Bannon is here and says, "Hi, Rob. The good news? I went to my first drive-in movie as outside venues can now reopen in the UK. The bad news? It was Wonder Woman 84. Rob, I loved it. It was so spectacularly bad, so badly written, that I was looking for Alex Kurtzman's name in the credits. All I can say, Emma, is that's my girl. Yes, I don't mean Wonder Woman. I mean you. Yeah, I was very disappointed. Very disappointed in Wonder Woman. Very much so. Stubble McShave, but that's funny. But how was it going to the drive-in? That must have been cool. What's a drive-in like in the UK? Was it like a pop-up drive-in, or do they actually have, like, do they have real drive-ins? Like, can you do that? Do they do that whole thing? Stubble McShave says, congratulations to Ed O'Neill, who turned 75 today. Oh, my God. He will always be known as Al Bundy. Al Bundy is 75, but the first time I saw him was in the second episode of Miami Vice, where he stole the show as an in too deep undercover agent. I remember that well. Oh my God, maybe I'll watch that today. I have the entire series on Blu-ray. I should check that out. Justin Toner says, Rob, did you see the July Blu-ray announcements from Shout Factory today? I have not yet. Special editions of Brotherhood of the Wolf and The Dead Zone. I'm buying both. I will buy both of those as well. Stub McShave says, I've always liked Robotech and Gundam, but I was never a fanatic about it. I'm happy for you and all other Gundam fan freaks. Let's hope it turns out great. I hope it turns out great, too. What's great is it really does have a great underlying story, and also the futility of war. So I'm in. Frederico Della Casa sends in a super chat and says, hi, John. I love the robot craze in the 70s and 80s here in Italy, which are very loved. Fan of Go Nagai bots, but Gundam is a different thing. Actually, the RX-78 was a prototype of a new suit compared to Zeon's Zaku. Yeah, absolutely. Which I love, because, yes, in the first Gundam, the RX-78 is in fact a prototype. But John, I'm Rob. Just saying. I could be John. I mean, if you want me to be John, I'm happy to be John. Stub McShave says, imagine if the stream had worked yesterday, then the Gundam news would have dropped on episode 666. Yes, that would have hampered my enjoyment of delving into all things the devil. Although, some people say the Red Comet is a little devilish. And you know what? I'm there for that. He's kind of devilish. Devilishly handsome. Frederico Della Costa comes back and says, what do you think about the Ta-Nehisi Coates comparing Jordan Peterson to the Red Skull? The series was written poorly and without love, but that made me drop cap after 30 years. My family suffered by real fascists and Nazis, and Jordan Peterson is anything but a Nazi. Well, I have to tell you, I have enjoyed listening to Jordan Peterson speak, like he addressed Oxford, and do I agree with everything he says? No, but as a pop psychologist, I mean, he's trying to offer, meaning to people that might not have any. And there have been a lot of people, even on this channel, that have written to me privately about Jordan Peterson who have found a lot of value in his work. The idea that he is conflated with neo-Nazism or the alt-right is ridiculous. And the fact that people think that he's somehow, look, he's a religious man, he's a psychotherapist, he's a psychologist, clinical psychologist. He's a college professor, he's written books about people looking for meaning. I mean, that's what he's dealing with. He's dealing with people that are looking for meaning. And I find him to be quite interesting. There's a lot of interesting, his ideas about hierarchies and things like that. I know a lot of people disagree with him, but I don't find him, I think you're right that your family, especially living in Italy, you had to deal with real fascism. And it's almost like the idea, everyone calls everyone else a Nazi around here lately. It's, you're a Nazi, she's a Nazi, he's a Nazi, whatever. Wouldn't you like to be a Nazi too? No. National Socialism was something that was very real and very dangerous, and it almost consumed all of Europe, and tens of millions of people died because of National Socialism, not to mention the 6 million Jews and the 6 million non-Jews, for a total of 12 million people who were systematically exterminated by National Socialism and the German war machine. So, bandying about that term and equating Jordan Peterson to being the Red Skull literally spouting Jordan Peterson isms was, I thought, a pretty offensive thing to do, especially to a Canadian. And for those of you who don't know, one of the things that Jordan Peterson, where he came to prominence, was he was against compelled speech. A lot of people think that he was anti-trans, but from what I understand, what he didn't like is he didn't like the fact that the Canadian government was adopting a law that compelled him to use speech in a certain way. He saw that as an instrument of totalitarianism that he is violently opposed to. And a lot of people said he was a transphobe because of it. That I don't know the man, so I can't say, but I've heard him say, I've seen him say in various interviews, he will call you personally whatever you want to be called. But what he was against was governmental compelled speech, and he lost that battle. And I think there's, something to be said. But Frederico, your point is well made. My family suffered by real fascists and Nazis, and Jordan Peterson is everything but a Nazi. Again, I don't think he's a Nazi either. I've never met the man, but, I've watched enough, and I read his first book. I haven't read his second book yet. Actually, that was not his first book. He had written another book that I was curious about reading as well, about the making of meaning or something like that. And I am no Jordan Peterson acolyte. He just became a pop culture figure. So, like with all pop culture figures that become famous suddenly, I was interested in who is he, what does he have to say, and obviously he's part of the intellectual dark web, if you want to call it that, where Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying, who are two of my favorite people in that space, are still existing. Again, just people that are in the zeitgeist now that, sometimes I listen to them, sometimes I don't. Cut the shit sends in a tip and says, I'm going to ask the PGS to be the first to stop using the word woke. As a black man, I can tell you, you may as well be using the N-word. So I'm asking the Post-Geek Singularity to please stop using it. Thank you. I don't know what you mean by that. Hang on. Origins of woke. Maybe there's something I don't know that I could definitely stand to learn. Origins of woke. Origin of the word woke. Let's check this out and find it. I'll go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary first. The new sense of woke is gaining popularity. This word was added, interesting, to the Merriam-Webster dictionary in September of 2017. If you frequent social media, you may well have seen posts or tweets about current events that are tagged #StayWoke. Woke is a slang term that is easing into the mainstream from some varieties of a dialect called African American Vernacular English, sometimes called AAVE. In AAVE, awake is often rendered as woke, as in I was sleeping but now I'm woke. It can be hard to trace back the origins, since the slang's origins are usually spoken, and it can be particularly difficult to trace a slang word that has its origins in a dialect. Woke's transformation into a byword of social awareness likely started in 2008 with the release of Erykah Badu's song Master Teacher. Even if your baby ain't got no money to support your baby, I stay woke. Even when the preacher tell you some lies and cheating on your mama, you stay woke. I stay woke. Even though you go through struggle and strife to keep a healthy life, I stay woke. I stay woke. Everybody knows that black or white, there's creatures in every shape and size. Everybody, I stay woke. Stay woke became a watchword in parts of the black community for those who were self-aware, questioning the dominant paradigm and striving for something better. But stay woke and woke became part of a wider discussion in 2014, immediately following the shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. The word woke became entwined with the Black Lives Matter movement. Instead of just being a word that signaled awareness of injustice or racial tension, it became a word of action. Activists were woke and called on others to stay woke. Like many other terms from black culture that have been taken into the mainstream, woke is gaining broader uses. It's now seen as an adjective to refer to places where woke people commune. Woke Twitter has very recently taken off as the shorthand for describing social media activists. The broader uses of woke are still very much in flux, and there are some who are woke to the broader implications of woke. Woke feels a little bit like Macklemore rapping in one of his latest tracks about how his whiteness makes his rap music more acceptable to other white people. The conundrum is built in. When white people aspire to get points for consciousness, they walk right into the crosshairs between allyship and appropriation. Amanda Hess, New York Times, 16th of April, 2016. Well, that's pretty definitive. Interesting. I did not know that. Well, you know what? Cut the shit. I'm with you there. I maybe we can stop using that word as much. I can't say I disagree. Lucifer ZL1. Lucifer, that is an extremely generous super chat, Lucifer. Lucifer says episode 666. I approve. Oh boy. Well, Lucifer, first of all, thank you for generously supporting the channel. I will take that money even though it's satanic. Does that mean I'm like Guy Woodhouse in Rosemary's Baby, selling out my wife to allow her to carry your child to term? Perhaps. But I'm here for that, and the 666 show should be fun. I've got some fun things to share, again, with you as a protagonist in pop culture. Jean-Luc Picard says, so Star Trek is returning to the big screen. Frankly, only Star Trek the Motion Picture is the only great Star Trek film, in my humble opinion. The other films have a cheap look and feel to them. I agree with that. The first two sequels are good, but the whale film is cringe. Eddie Murphy would have made it Superman 3 bad. Yes, Eddie Murphy was going to be in Star Trek 4 The Voyage Home. Ended up not being there. So, yeah, the new Star Trek movie has been announced for 2023. Bad Robot's producing it. Why they still get to make Star Trek movies, I don't know. What do you want to throw some more money away? Throwing good money after bad? The last Star Trek movie did not even gross twice its original production budget. And Justin Lin directed it. So anyway. Sala is here. Sala says, so Harrison Ford movie starring Phoebe Waller-Bridge in the new indie film. Please, dear God, let them have a love scene. He could do all kinds of kinky things with that whip and show that older men still have it. It's the mileage. Yeah, Sala, I'm with you. I mean, I think although Indiana Jones is going to be 79. I think they need to cast him in the role of the elder Indiana Jones, who, by the way, how old was Sean Connery? Like in his 60s when he Elsa, I could buy into that. But a 79-year-old man having a love scene with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, whip or no whip, might cross a line. Wolverine 626 sends in a super chat and says, new Akiva Goldsman interview about Strange New Worlds in today's Heat Vision Hollywood Reporter. Well, Wolverine, I can't pass that up. Let's go and let's jump right into this. I could have made this tomorrow's subject, but now that you've told me, I can't not read it. So wait a minute. I'm looking at the Heat Vision section. Charlie Rose. I'm not seeing it. Where is it? Well, let me check. Maybe that was from yesterday, and I didn't see it. Akiva Goldsman, Strange New Worlds. I think it'll just pop up. Straight up. This is 312. Actually, no, I don't see it. Here we go. 412 right here. Star Trek showrunner discusses Strange New Worlds plan evolving queue for Picard. Oh boy, this should be fun to read. Wait a minute. Do I have a nitroglycerin pill around for my heart? Oh wait, I don't take nitroglycerin pills, but all right. Star Trek Picard and upcoming Strange New Worlds. Let me go full frame on this just so you can really, if I explode, you'll be able to watch it and it'll have more of a splatter pattern. Star Trek Picard and the upcoming Strange New Worlds represent two very different sides of the Star Trek franchise coin. The first is a heavily serialized meditation on the adventures of an aging Jean-Luc Picard. No, it's a meditation on a non-aging robot that has the essence of Jean-Luc Picard in it. And the latter is an as-yet unseen episodic throwback to the original series. Oh, joy. One thing they have in common, Akiva Goldsman as co-showrunner. The writer-producer for Fringe and A Beautiful Mind is currently directing his first pilot for Strange New Worlds. Terrific. And is also right in the middle of production of Picard Season 2. Below, Goldsman discusses both shows, the expanding Trek franchise, the return of trickster god Q, and gives an update on his adaptation of Stephen King's Firestarter. Here's the question that the Hollywood Reporter asks. So, you've started filming Strange New Worlds. How does it compare and contrast to other Trek shows so far? It's unlike other shows in that it's really episodic. If you think back to the original series, it was a tonally more liberal, I don't mean in terms of politics, but it could sort of be more fluid, like sometimes Robert Bloch would write a horror episode, or Harlan Ellison would have City on the Edge of Forever, which is hard sci-fi. Then there would be comedic episodes like Shore Leave or The Trouble with Tribbles. So, co-showrunner Henry Alonzo Myers and myself are trying to serve that. We've all become very enamored, myself included, with serialized storytelling, and I'm talking to you from behind the stage where we're shooting Picard, which is deeply serialized. But Strange New Worlds is very much an adventure of the week, but with serialized character arcs. You're directing the pilot, which is always a major privilege and also a lot of pressure. How has that gone so far, and what were you looking to bring to that? It was super fun, and I've almost finished all of it. There were certain scenes that we couldn't shoot in Toronto because of quarantine, in terms of limits on the number of extras in a scene that I'll back and finish pretty soon, I hope. But there's something extraordinary about a bunch of folks coming together to do a new thing. You're surrounded by people who would be perfectly happy to be on the floor of a Star Trek convention, which is a little different than a typical show. Were there any changes to the Enterprise set design and uniforms compared to what we saw when we were introduced to these characters in Discovery? Yeah, it's a fine line because obviously we want to keep continuity with the storytelling and the style, but we also want Strange New Worlds to be a different show. It's not Discovery, thank fucking Christ. There are a few more reachbacks to the original series, and the uniforms have been adjusted slightly. The sets are slightly different. Remember, the Enterprise existed as a little piece of Discovery, but now it's its own object. When you close your eyes and think of the key sets and situations that you think of the original series, that's what we're looking to do. What was the turning point moment when the producer or CBS began to seriously consider spinning off Captain Pike into his own show? There are a few things I will take credit for in the Star Trek universe, but this is actually one of them. When executive producer Alex Kurtzman called about joining the Discovery team, I was wildly envious of any involvement with Star Trek because I love it so much. My very first Star Trek convention was in 1975. I had no idea what his show was about, so I went online and started reading that it was clearly going to be about Captain Pike and Number One. You mean the show about people who NBC didn't accept and rejected? So that's what I thought I was going to join. Then I got there and I couldn't have had less to do with Captain Pike and Number One, so I started agitating for them because the timelines overlap with Discovery and the Enterprise was out there. When the Enterprise appeared at the end of Season 1 and once Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, and Ethan Peck started living those characters in Season 2, it sort of became this wonderful inevitability. Switching to Picard, what did you guys learn from the first season in terms of pulling off the show that you're bringing into Season 2? Figure out the end earlier. Amen. If you're going to do a serialized show, you have the whole story before you start shooting. It's more like a movie in that way. You better know the end of your third act before you start filming your first scene. Well, I guess that's why you got your Academy Award, Akiva Goldsman. Good for you. Nice you figured it out after you blew all that money on the first season of Picard. It felt like another bit of fan feedback from the first season of Picard and the first couple of seasons of Discovery was that they were overly complicated. Then Discovery Season 3 seemed more directly focused on the burn and was better received. Is that fair? Certainly, there are different levels of complication over the seasons of Discovery, and I'm just a friend of the court at this point on Discovery. After Season 1, I started trying to excavate this Picard idea. But no, I think where our storytelling is complicated, it is frustratingly so. It's just our own fault for not doing well enough. Well, good for you, Akiva Goldsman. It's nice that you know that it's just your own fault for not doing it well enough. The great thing about plot complication and character excellence is they shouldn't be mutually exclusive. I wonder who's been saying that. Even a really complicated plot should ultimately become invisible. That's sort of the job of it. Chinatown being the example that we all endlessly lean on in our imagination. Really? Do you really think anyone who's ever worked on a modern Star Trek show is thinking or holding up Chinatown as being the end-all be-all of your storytelling? Part of the plot of Chinatown is really complex and complicated, yet at the end of the day, you just remember it's about water. Bruh. Chinatown is not just about water. Sorry, Akiva. Do better. Please. Please. Why do you say these things publicly? There's this elegant disappearing act so the characters can shine. What the fuck does that mean? Early on, we made the choice to be agnostic when it came to the audience's knowledge of Trek. Really? You guys were agnostic when it came to the audience's knowledge of Trek, the franchise that's been around for over 50 fucking years? Half a century, and you're agnostic when it came to the audience's knowledge of Trek? We want to welcome somebody who knows Trek and make it even better because of the things we have, but we don't want to alienate those who don't. If you know Next Generation, Picard is more fun or less fun. But by the time we get to episode 6, you better have watched episodes 1 through 5 or your eyes are going to cross. Yeah, because they're so fucking bad. That's not true with Strange New Worlds, where you can drop in, watch one, drop out, then watch another one later. Is that what you want your audience to do? Watch your show, drop in, drop out, watch another one later? Really? You're bringing back Q, but Picard is a pretty different show tonally to Next Generation. So how do you evolve Q like you evolve Jean-Luc so that he's the same character but not overly broad or cartoonish? You asked exactly the right question, and the answer is in the same way that we've tried to do with Picard himself. Co-showrunner Terry Matalas and I don't pretend that the interstitial years didn't happen. No, obviously, chronological time is less relevant to Q. The time between shows is probably not even the blink of an eye in Q time, if you even have Q time, but we definitely chose to follow suit when it came to him. So as we tried to evolve the other characters, the same is true of Q. This is a show of a different time with actors of a different age. We're now talking about the issues that come up in the last stage of your life. We wanted a Q that could play in that arena with Picard. Hopefully, he'll just snap his fingers and make Picard a 30-year-old and recast both guys and go from there. What was the inspiration for bringing him on board? What made him right character-wise? There are a lot of people who think of Q as a trickster god, right? And he is, but he's also a profoundly significant relationship in Picard's life. There's a lot of discussion in Picard Season 2 about the nature of that connectedness. Q's kind of a great lightning rod for that because in some ways he's one of Picard's deepest, not deep in the same way that Riker is or Beverly Crusher was, but in its own uniquely profound, deep relationship. What? 7 hours of Picard's life, maybe? Will Picard's new body impact his character in Season 2, or does it just not? Oh, it doesn't. We did fundamentally try and address that at the end of 10. That would be Episode 10. He's not Super Picard. We reset this congenital problem he's lived with since Next Gen and gave him the opportunity for rebirth, but it's nothing more than a record as he might have been where he is not here. The original pre-COVID-19 plan was to shoot Seasons 2 and 3 of Picard back-to-back. Is that still happening? I would love to answer that, but I cannot. So you answered it. And is the Section 31 spinoff still happening? I don't know. I believe so. Alex has a plan. Really? Like for Clarice? You know, Picard wasn't supposed to be a series. It was just a one-off scene in Short Trek. He wasn't even going to be played by Patrick Stewart. They were going to have a young Picard at the end of a short we were making up. Then Alex was like, what if it was Patrick Stewart? What if it wasn't one scene? Alex has a plan, and it's pretty cool. When is that plan going to kick in? We're going to go into the 4th season of Discovery, the 2nd season of Picard, and the 1st season of Strange New Worlds. Does he have a plan? I've been waiting for a Star Trek plan since he first wrote or co-wrote Star Trek 09. I think he's like Walter Kurtz. I don't see any plan or method at all. The question of how much is too much is something everybody is grappling with in the streaming era. Does it feel like the Trek output has hit its natural maximum? Does CBS want more? I can't speak for CBS. Look, we all want to do the same thing, which is to look at the example that really works. And you cannot have enough Marvel shows. I'm waiting for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier tomorrow, and I watched the Loki trailer 19,000 times. Did you really, though? 19,000? So with that as the example, you can never have enough Star Trek shows. You know, those shows, though, are better than the Star Trek you're making. But we've all seen the other side where it doesn't work. Yes, we're watching it every time we watch one of your modern Star Trek shows. Star Trek has that heart space for some people, especially now after the world was revealed for being worse than we thought it was. Do you mean like your Star Trek universe that you've been doing for the last 12 years? You've turned Star Trek into a dystopian show? I'm a big believer in hard-won happy endings. It doesn't mean it's not hard getting there, but I'm just going to choose to believe that there can be good outcomes. I'm still waiting for a good outcome when it comes to modern Star Trek. Speaking of expanding franchises, in non-Trek news, you were involved in those hugely ambitious Dark Tower plans that for a while involved both movies and TV shows. What happened there? And is any of it still alive? I have a lot of regret about the parts of that didn't work out. Our best version of that existed well before television movie crossovers and streaming were a thing. I have a lot of affection for the books that didn't end up on screen. None of the books ended up on screen. In the 2017 movie The Dark Tower, and Ron Howard had this idea of what could be done across platforms. He didn't touch the movie, but sometimes things slip away. There are things about that film I still admire, and Idris Elba played a wonderful Roland. I think there were too many different points of view, mine included, when it came to figuring out how to tell a cogent story on screen, and we could have done it better. Wait a minute, are you sure you're not talking about Star Trek now, too? In other King news, it looks like your version of a Firestarter movie is coming together and casting. What can fans of the book and original film expect in terms of updating the story? Firestarter is one of the last great, either unmade or unremade Stephen King novels that have become classics. Either unmade or unremade. There are things I will never forget from the original movie, but it diverged from the book significantly, so Scott Teems, who is a really wonderful writer, wrote this terrific script, which is much closer to the novel in both incident and tone. We start shooting, I want to say, in 12 weeks. Firestarter was always some of Stephen's most intimate and effective horror, and I think pyrokinesis is a really fascinating idea when it comes to the expression of hidden feelings. So, well, there you have it. Yeah. Well, Wolverine, I don't know. You know, what can I say? That interview didn't exactly give me, it didn't give me much hope. There's certainly no Shawshank Redemption hope in there, but who knows? Sheriff Carl says, glad we moved band practice to Thursdays. Tomorrow's going to be the most satanic Taco Tuesday for all eternity. I have high hopes for tomorrow's show, and hope springs infernal. Hail, Taco Satan. Well, Sheriff Carl, I hope to deliver on that. Jack is great. Sends in a super chat and says, missed the Gundam bit, but I have to ask, favorite Xeon mobile suit? Zaku is mine, but the Gauf in 8th MS team is badass too. Zazabi, man. Zazabi. That's my favorite. Char's counterattack. Come on. Ron Jeremy says, Robert, have you ever seen Pulp Friction, Romancing the Bone, Goodwill Humping, Splat Man, or Saturday Night Beaver? Well, Ron, you know what? I'm certainly a fan of your early work. But those are movies I don't know by name. I began with things like All American Girls. That was a classic. That really was. Or, to be honest, Radley Metzger when he became Henry Paris. Afternoons of Pamela Mann, Barbara Broadcast, that kind of stuff. That predates you. Bobby Hatch Kowal says, Quibi is in the Urban Dictionary. Definition 2, when someone sticks their tongue down a man's... Really? Quibi is in the Urban Dictionary. Definition 2, when someone sticks their tongue down a man's something while inserting a finger into his at the same time. Well, that's something I would certainly enjoy. But there you go. I didn't know that was the truth. Magic K said, have you ever read Kieran Gillian's Peter Cannon Thunderbolt? A fun response to post-Watchmen comics. I have not. I've heard of it. I have not read it. Something I need to put on the list. Simon sends in a tip and says, first, happy birthday to your mom. Second, I'm glad the 666 show did not happen yesterday. Third, the fourth Star Trek movie better correct the Kelvin verse because you and I will demand for the Roddenberry verse. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody who can do that. Maybe somebody can. I hope they find somebody. Black Phillip Alvarez. Hello, Black Phillip. I will still watch episode 666 in support of RMB. There can't be one without Black Phillip present. Well, maybe that'll be a thing. Maybe we'll have to get your presence there. I think it would only be appropriate. Stubble McShave sends in a tip and says, Harrison Ford in an interview for Indy 3 said, Sean is just 12 years older than me, so I thought it strange that he would be playing my father, but after having known him for this time, I think he could have done it. There you go. Bobby Hatch Kowal, this is, I'm scared. Quibi definition number 4 in the Urban Dictionary. The sexual act of redacted and or excreting other redacted in your partner's redacted during redacted. This can be done with or without the partner's knowledge. Oh, dude, that's rough stuff right there. That is not family. But I appreciate you redacting all of those things. Wow, I'm going to have to look up Quibi in the Urban Dictionary. Hapkido Locke sends in a tip and says, Hoy, Alive wouldn't know hard sci-fi if it walked up and bent him over a pool table. Jeez, in an article with Akiva Goldsman dispensing storytelling advice. Thank you, Rob. I'm one step closer to having experienced absolutely everything absurd. Yeah, that interview, did he speak about Star Trek and the kind of stories they were telling? I know he probably couldn't, but wow. I mean, my big takeaway from Akiva Goldsman talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds is that, hey, you can watch one and then you don't have to watch the next, but then you can just dip in and still enjoy it. Boy, that's a resounding an endorsement of the show that you're show running. Way to go directing that pilot, bruh. Ugh, man. Robert Conrad says, Hi, Rob. I'm currently 40 years old. Around the age of 10, my grandmother passed away from cancer, and I was given her small boombox that also had a small 4 or 5-inch built-in black and white TV. I had to use a wire hanger as an antenna in order to get 2 TV stations. One of the stations happened to play the original Star Trek series. This show blew my mind as a kid. Star Trek is where my imagination began to come to life, and I wish we had more of that to watch now. Well, Robert Conrad, you and me both. I don't know if we're going to be getting it anytime soon. Wow. Jeff Yerke's here. I haven't seen you, Jeff, in a while, or Mrs. Y. Please give my love to Mrs. Y. Hi, Rob. Pleased to say that I'm still alive. That is very Pearl Jam of you. Greetings from my amazing better half. Live long and prosper, the Yerk Man. Well, Jeff injured his back severely. We're glad you're still with us, and apparently you're still smiling. So, by God, how amazing is that? That's good to know. Kevin sends in a super chat and says, love that Marvel is maturing before our eyes. It was interesting to see Falcon and Winter Soul Man. Falcon and Winter Soul Man. It was interesting to see Falcon and Winter Soldier mention the ineffectiveness of the Iraq War and sympathized with terrorists. Well, I think a lot of terrorists are the downtrodden. And after all, we love Star Wars, and Star Wars is a show about a movie series and shows now about terrorists, really fighting an oppressive government. I think the writing in Falcon and Winter Soldier is surprisingly nuanced, and I'm glad it is. I think it's all the better for it. All the better for it. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind souls, what a fun show this turned out to be. I mean, Gundam and Akiva Goldsman. What more do you want? I mean, today's episode of Robservations was brought to you by the letter G. Maybe I'll have my own version of Letterman, but I want to thank you for that. I want to thank everybody that writes in and supports the channel via tips and super chats. I appreciate that. Please hit like or subscribe. And if you think I'm a monumental douchebag, please hit like or subscribe anyway. But I want to thank everybody for writing in, and I want to thank everybody always for the letters that they write. And you can write me a letter free of charge. You can do it and send it to theburnettwork.net. Now, tomorrow is true. It is episode 666, and we are going to be discussing Satan. Could it be Satan? And Satan, though, as an antagonist and a presence in our pop culture. I'm not going to read passages from Anton LaVey's The Satanic Bible, even though Satan represents love for those who deserve it, not love wasted on ingrates. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do anything overtly offensive. However, there's a reason why the devil has continued to exist in our world, and it's not just because of the Bible. Why are we attracted to the devil? Why is he a fan of man? I'm a humanist. I mean, after all, there's a lot going on with the devil, and I think I love movies about the devil. And I want to thank everybody who has contributed to adding to the Satanic playlist. You can listen to it right now on Spotify, but there's going to be a lot more in the Satanic playlist than there is now. Probably another 100 selections, which begins with Ella Fitzgerald and ends with the Rolling Stones and everything in between. I'm pretty proud of the Satanic playlist, but there's a lot of people who've sent in suggestions where it's not necessarily directly the devil. I try to keep things like directly either devil or directly devil adjacent. But it's a surprisingly eclectic playlist. And I hope you guys like it. I hope you have There's a lot of things that aren't on Spotify that I've wanted to use that they weren't on there. So I apologize if your song isn't on the Satanic playlist, but I've had a lot of fun compiling it. And on that note, I want to say to everyone, first of all, I want to thank my moderating staff, beginning with Mike Bodden and the Richard. Thank you all for doing what you do. Joshua Levesque is here. Greg Smith is here. Brian Hepburn is here. Thank you, guys. Justin Toner's here. Bunyan Snipe is here. I would imagine Louise X Sparrow was here. She might have had to go because it's late over there. I don't know. But I want to thank you all for being the moderators that you are and all the work that you do. So, yeah, indeed. And this brings an end to Robservations episode number 665. By the way, I have started thinking about episode 700, which, if I keep going at this rate, will be in a little over a month, if you can believe that. Meaning that episode 700 might fall on my birthday, which is May 15th, which could be interesting. Actually, yeah, it could. No, maybe not. I don't know how many days. It'll come somewhere around my birthday. So that's crazy. Maybe I'll miss a few days in between, but it would be interesting if my birthday celebration and this show reached episode 700 on the same day. By the way, I don't know what I've done. I thought I brought my phone out here. Apparently, I didn't. I don't know why I didn't bring. I think I must have left it in the bathroom. But this channel today, at some point today, if it has not already, is going to pass 5 million views. And I want to thank all of you. 5 million total views over the lifetime of the channel, basically in the last 2.5 years. I know a lot of those views are repeat viewers, but 5 million individual views is staggering to me, and I want to thank all of you. We'll celebrate that number tomorrow as well. So 5 million views for the Burnettwork. I'm blown away by that, but it's true. Very interesting statistic. And on that note, I would say thank you all. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to everyone, have a better day.